Welcome to another episode of So Here's the Thing with your host, Sharon Shea Alexander. In honor of anti-bullying for the month of October, we have a special guest with us today. His name is Delvin Rogers. He is the CEO of CALM, CALM, which is an acronym for Control Anger, Limit Madness. Welcome, Delvin. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for saying yes, because
Yep.
I know you're a very busy man. When I did my research on you, from what I can see, you're everywhere advocating. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what CALM is all about.
So a little bit about myself. I'm a school teacher first,
Okay.
and I also have an LLC that you mentioned, which is CALM, standing for Control Anger, Limit Madness. And basically what that LLC is about is helping youth understand the importance of anger management. So
Okay.
we're teaching them fine skills like self-control, conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, and that's something that is not being talked about enough within our school system and communities. So I'm a huge advocate for that particular work.
Okay, well, what inspired you? Is it growing up maybe in a certain type of community or an experience, a personal experience?
Right. So there was a period in Miami. I was born and raised in Miami. So there was a period of one summer where there was a lot of killings and shootings. And it was something to where I wanted to kind of get an understanding of why.
Okay.
So once I got into the school system, I knew that I wanted to do something more to just find out, where's the anger stemming from. So I went ahead and did a certification program that dealt with anger management. And from there, I wanted to, take it a step further by having my own LLC and then branching off and working with different youth groups and organizations to go in and talk to youth about, their anger, how they manage it, and learning about self-control, because a lot of times you see where youth are just reactive,
Right.
rather than thinking about it and, processing it and then trying to figure out what I need to do next. It's just all reactive. And then we know once you react, then here are the consequences. So that's where it stemmed from, and I've been successful with it, still trying to talk to as many youth, at different youth groups as possible, just to get the word out there, because it's very important and it's not being talked about enough.
Right. So can you give us a little insight to the mission and the vision that you had for the business?
Right. So the mission and vision is basically, again, just getting our youth to understand how to, control their anger, what anger management is all about, and really teaching them that it's okay to be angry. We all get angry. We're human beings, but what is your next step?
And I like that you said that. It's okay to be angry.
Right, because
it's an emotion.
Absolutely, and it's a healthy emotion, because again, we as human beings, we all get angry, but we have to figure out what is our next step, and from that next step, decide, that determines, what you're going to do, and for youth, again, they're fight or flight. They see things one-sided. So I'm just going to go with what I'm thinking rather than take that pause moment to figure out, okay, maybe I should, write something. Maybe I should listen to music. These are different things that will help with, getting down to calming down and getting back to your better self. So
Right. Hence the name.
Right.
CALM.
Exactly.
Control
Yes.
anger, limit
Limit
madness.
madness.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Is there a specific, I heard you say the youth. How early do you start? How early do you feel like children can understand the mindset, the science behind anger?
Right.
Is there?
Right. So I try and start with the youth that are about 11, because
Okay.
there's a transition in terms of development.
Okay.
And, with those 11, 12-year-olds, now they're transitioning into middle school, so now you see a different type of behavior than it was in elementary. And not that I'm shying away from the elementary school kids, but, the message I want the kids to, be able to pick it up and understand. So 11, 12, up until 18, and with 18, now they're transitioning into the real world. And they have to understand, you can't take all of things that you harbored, throughout your elementary, middle, high school years and take that into adulthood. It's best for them to get an understanding of how can I control myself now. That way they are able to conduct themselves as an adult.
Right.
And we see that there's still a problem with adults who don't know about how to have that self-control.
Correct.
So my mission is to get them while they're young.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I completely agree. Now, I'm a mom, a boy mom, and a girl mom. And both of my children displayed anger differently.
Right.
I don't know if, male, female had anything to do with it or just personality differences.
Right.
But how do you, because like you said, that transition stage, that age where they're transitioning into manhood or womanhood, the hormones are crazy.
Right, absolutely.
And so how do you determine, oh, this is just that time that they're going through, or there's something more deep, there's something deeper going on? How do you?
Right. So it could be, a phase. It could be something that has been troubling them for a while, and they just may not have that person to talk to spell it out, so they're harboring it, so with harboring it, here's more anger, so the simplest thing that, you as a mom or a classmate may say to them, and here's the anger and frustration, but they haven't let go of whatever it is that's bothering them. So it's best to have that open line of communication. And I think with our youth that lacks because they seek social media for that advice and things like that, but that's not always the best thing to do, and kids, can open up, but social media is, getting in the way of communication aspect.
Right.
So when you have that anger, they're not letting it go because they want to run to social media or a friend that may not have their best interests. So
Okay.
You could just open up and talk to someone.
Do you feel like the kids are more apt to open up to you at an earlier stage, around 11, as opposed to when they're 18? How do you feel like what are the challenges between the different stages and the age differences?
Right. I think the earlier ages would open up a little bit more. I think around 17, 18, they feel as though I know it all, and they think that social media can give them the best advice again. But with the littles, you can, let them know this is the proper way of doing things. If you're angry, you can come talk to me. With the older kids, they feel as though I'll figure it out on my own, and then that's when the, trouble starts and the consequences and things like that. But I'm wide open. I tell kids in every group that I work with, you can just, you could even go as far as finding my social media and we can talk and just kind of like chop down different issues that you have, until you're able to figure it out on your own. But just trying to do it on your own, we all need help, even adults, we still have to seek advice from different arenas and different people. So it's best to just find someone that you can connect with, and get the best advice.
Okay, well, you just said something. We all need help. Yes, we do. Because as the parent, I noticed that sometimes, more times than not, my children would listen to an aunt or a grandmother before listening to me, even if they said the exact same thing that I said. So how do I navigate that? What advice do you have for the parent?
I think it's just a matter of, it just small pieces at a time, letting your child know that they can come to you and talk about anything, but kind of give it a space, to where they feel comfortable and you're not trying to just always find out, how they're feeling, just ask a few questions, but, kind of take a step back. And after a while, they'll come to you for, different things or whatever, because they don't want to feel attacked,
That's
and
interesting.
And that's how youth of today, that's how they feel. That's why they're hesitant with talking, because it may be a situation where I knew you'd say that, if I told you something, so it's just one of those things to where, it's bits and pieces, but you're at least letting them know I'm here when you're ready to talk.
Right. This is for the kids. It's all about the kids. And even as a parent, while I'm struggling and I'm frustrated and I'm angry at times, I have to always remember that my child needs to feel safe. Right. And so I remember my son saying to my sister, I can't talk to her. And I remember saying to my sister when she would come to me, I can't talk to him. Right. I don't even really understand what that dynamic was, but I do remember with both my children, they responded differently, yes. My daughter was more internal, and my son was more external, more expressive. But there was that stage. Like it's very difficult for the adult in the situation as well sometimes. What do I do to, like you said, little steps, maybe small questions here and there. But what if I don't feel like I'm breaking through?
Well, I think what it is, it comes with patience. I would say it comes with a lot of patience because you don't want to feel as though you're getting frustrated and angry because they're not opening up to you. So a lot of times as parents, including myself, sometimes we have to take a step back and have our own pause moments, and figure out different strategies. But at the same time, we can't allow ourselves to get angry at them for not wanting to come to us to speak about how they're feeling, because it would only spell out to them, that you're angry. They see that, and now they're really shut down and wouldn't want to come to you. So it takes a lot of patience. The older the kids get, they have their own social groups and things like
Right.
that, and
That's
they're,
true too.
they're used to doing it a certain way. But it's about patience, but you're still letting them know that you're available,
Correct.
to speak about anything that's troubling them. And they know that, but it's just a way of how they do things. But, just always make yourself available.
How would you say your students respond to you as opposed to your children? Do you feel like there's a difference?
It is a difference in a way, and perfect example because my son goes to the same school that I teach at.
Okay.
So he's used to just seeing me all day long. But for the kids, they know, once Mr. Rogers comes into the classroom, it's no nonsense. But with my son, he knows it's no nonsense, but it's like I can do a few things and maybe get away with it, opposed to my students
Right.
knowing that, you know what's next if you do this or do that. So for my son, I try and instill the same things that I
Right.
do with the youth groups or the kids that are in the classroom. I try and give them the same information. And him being my son, I give him just a tad bit more because you're a product of me, and I want you
Right.
to be able to express yourself and have those feelings of if you're feeling angry. If you don't want to talk to me right now, but I'm available, son, when you are ready to talk to me. So it's the same thing across the board.
Okay. Do you feel like this is something that's going to be a lifelong work for you?
Absolutely, absolutely. What my ultimate goal is, and I love teaching. I love teaching kids, and I don't think it will be any different. But eventually, I would like to step away from the classroom and just become a full-time, speaker with my own. Aside from LLC, but just going into different classrooms, going to different schools, going to different programs, and just having it full functional like that, rather
Right.
than just going for a day and then okay, I got to go back to my teaching job. I want to kind of step away from teaching and just make this public speaking a full-time gig.
Okay. Have you been called by other schools outside of yours to do mentorship and maybe workshops?
I have, and it's a matter of just scheduling,
Okay.
because I'm teaching during the day, but I may get a call from a certain school that wants me to come and talk to a group and things like that. So I basically have to work out schedules to do it. But if it works, I'm all for it, and I love just speaking to different groups, and making myself available.
Well, you're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
You
Thank
are.
you.
I have done my little research on you, and I see
you.
that you really are being asked to speak at this event, at that event. How do you feel about expanding? Like, is this something you feel like maybe you'll, as far as location wise, regional, like,
I mean, I definitely want to be global with
Right.
it, and I want the Calm name to be in Wyoming or DC or, Denver, anywhere, because there's a need, let's just make that very clear. There's a need because our kids need to know about how to have self-control and
Right.
understand what emotional intelligence means,
Right.
and once they grasp those key tools, then they'll be able to move different, but yeah, I definitely want it to be global and my name everywhere. Yeah.
It is, I love the work that you're doing. It really is important in every single community. There used to be a time where you would see this type of behavior in the urban areas.
Right, right,
Now they're in the suburbs.
right,
What would you say, like what's happening to our youth?
right, right.
What's, as far as the developmentally, what would you say is happening? What's triggering this type of behavior?
I think what it is, a key thing is social media. social media was made up for a different concept, but now it's gone far left, and our kids gravitate towards social media for everything, even down to advice on how to handle a matter that's going on at home and things like that. And then, you're talking to somebody who you think is giving you the best advice, but it may be a stranger who doesn't have your best interest. And also communication, because everybody is on phones, everybody is on this type of social media, this, that, and other, but there's no sit down with parents and having a strong communication, about how was your day, how well are you doing in school, just the small things,
Right.
and that's what's lacking. So without that communication, kids are just, doing what they think is okay, and they're fine with that, but where's the communication between parent, child to find out how should I handle matters? Let's say if it's a bully issue, you don't want to take that matter into your own hands. Maybe seek advice from your parent. How should I, I'm having this issue at school. How should I handle that? And your parent will give you the best advice rather than your friend who may tell you, well, go ahead and fight, but
That's true.
you fight.
There's that peer pressure.
Right. There's that peer pressure, and that may not be part of your character, but you're going to do it anyway off the strength of, that peer pressure. And now
Correct.
here are the consequences. And now, it's a bigger issue than it could have been if you sought advice from, a parent or, a guardian who has your best interest.
Right. So do you do workshops for the adults or the parents as well, or?
Well, the workshops that I've done in the past have been, strictly with youth, but moving forward, I want the parents to be involved.
Right.
That way, the parents can get good, valuable information. So as they move forward, they could apply better information to the child, and then everybody comes out on top. But
Right.
if the parent really doesn't know how to maneuver or how to do things properly, then they'll just give the best advice that they know, but it may not be the best advice.
Correct.
And the child will take that and then, go and do what they think is right because I got it from the parent or a friend, and now we have a big issue. So it's great that parents can attend workshops and soak up information and ask questions.
Right.
Yeah.
I needed it.
Right.
Thank God I survived. Both my
Right.
children are doing well.
Right. That's good.
My son
That's
and
good.
I have an amazing relationship now.
That's good.
But I love that even later in life, he approached me with a conversation. And it was a hard conversation because as the parent, to say I'm sorry for doing things the way that I did things,
Right.
that kind of got stuck right here.
Right.
And there was that pride that I'm the parent, you're the child.
Right.
He's an adult.
Right.
But I think, and it was very emotional for the both of us because I saw his heart for the first time. I wasn't hearing the noise.
Right.
And I think for him, he saw my heart and wasn't just hearing the noise.
Right. Right.
Let me ask you this question. When you have two children raised in the same home and there's violence in the home, one child decides, oh, I will never live my life like this, and the other child develops the same habits. How do you explain that science?
That's very interesting because, it may be how the child decides to deal with it. If it doesn't bother one child and they just see it as this is just an everyday thing, I'm just going to deal with it. And the other child decides, okay, that's never going to be me. It's an awkward science, but you have to still really talk to the child who's absorbing that and is just brushing their shoulder off to it, but still trying to figure out how are they feeling on the inside,
Right.
And really trying to understand, their feelings and emotions and things like that, because they may absorb it, but now they're taking it out on people at school or the actual parent and things like that. So you want to constantly stay on that. Well, not just that one child, but both of them to find out how are you feeling about everything that's going on around you. And the earlier you do that, the better off it will be because, you don't want it to get too far to where now that child is expressing what's going on in home on the outside.
Right.
So, whether it be therapy, whether it be a one-on-one session, you just want to make sure, how are your emotions towards what you're feeling.
Right.
And again, if they're not ready to talk, you're still, as a parent, letting them know I'm available, and you want to always consistently put that out there. And it may take a week, it may take a month, but in the back of their mind, they know that you're there, and you've put that out there, and don't you get frustrated with it. They'll come when they're ready.
And I like that you said that because, again, in my own experience, there were times where I felt like if I'm raising you and I'm raising you and I'm raising you guys both the same way, I expect the same type of response or reaction from both of you.
Right.
Why are you responding this way and you responding that way?
Right.
Would it be safe to say, or would it be good advice, and I know this is a rhetorical question, for the parent to be mindful that each child, while they are your child, they have their own personality traits, their own characteristic traits.
Right.
They're going to be separate people.
Right. Right.
And so for me, while I was raising my kids, being a single mom, and it's not an excuse, this was my situation. I believe, when I spoke with my children later on in life, the anger that they saw was my frustration with dealing with things on my own.
Right.
It wasn't okay.
Right.
So I had to apologize, right? And I think that would be some good advice to tell the parent, remember, you're raising them in the same house with the same morals, same values, trying to instill the same things, but they're different people.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can't expect them to, just, act the same way, although it's your children, and it's like, okay, I'm the mom, and those are my kids. I'm expecting them to do it this way.
Right.
But, they have their own ideas and own characteristics and things like that, and their own personality. So, we have to just take it at face value that, they're going to do things differently, but just still, again, letting them know that you're available, to come talk to me. If there's a problem, I'm always here for you. I'm going to try and give you the best advice possible, and just continue to show love.
Can parents call you? Can we call him?
Of course, and
I wish I had someone like you to have this conversation with me back then. I may have still had some frustrations, but I think this would have been good for me. So while what you're doing is amazing for the children, it would be so amazing for the adults, because then now you're helping both sides. Right? So now I noticed that you have a book here, When Delcy Got Mad. What happened when Delcy got mad?
So this book, what inspired this book was, again, working in the school system. And of course, the little ones, they, again, we're all human, so we tend to have emotional meltdowns. But for Delcy, he had a particular meltdown because he loves block towers. He loves building block towers, and one day it crashed. So he had an emotional meltdown due to the crash, and he just, couldn't figure out, what do I need to do next? My block tower is crashed. I'm angry, I'm upset, but he began to think about all the things that his teacher told him. When things like that happen, what do you need to do? So Delcy was able to, kind of, close his eyes and, really think about what happened, and know that you could potentially redo it. So he was able to just get a squeeze ball and squeeze it. And, then he was able to kind of calm down and really reflect on what happened. And as time went on, he knew that the teacher was correct about, what he said. And afterwards, he was able to, build a block tower all over again after he was able to calm down and knew that, all is not over.
Right.
You could, reflect and redo and get back to your happy self.
There it is. So not only are you an educator, an advocate also for the youth when it comes to anger management, but you're an author. How many books do you have out now?
Actually, this is my second book.
Okay.
The first book that I had is titled Walking Barefoot on the Cool Grass. And that book is more so for teenagers and teenagers, young adults, and adults. And it just basically gives different passages on how we should deal with different issues that are going on in our lives, but also not moving so fast, taking time to reflect and just doing the simplest of things. Hence, walking barefoot on the cool grass, because, taking your shoes off and walking on the grass, that is about as simple as you can
And that's
be.
very calming.
And
I do that.
Right, and it brings the calmness out of you, because it's so simple at the end of the day. And whatever issues you're having, once you do that, like you will find yourself just so calm, because it's a soothing type of
Right, it's therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now, Give me one success story. I know I can't keep you here all day, but with the programs that you have and the strategies and the techniques that you teach, even in your books,
Right.
give me a success story.
So I was working with BSO, and BSO had and they still do, a youth group of young men, young ladies who might have had a first offense or a second offense, but they're placed in a program to expunge their record.
Okay.
So when I started with that program, there were two young men. I can't think of the offense that they had, but it was their second offense. So they were on a road to maybe going to adult prison, their next step if they did anything else. So starting with the program, of course, we'd be in a circle and, I want engagement. I'm that type of guy where, I want you to talk up and tell me a little bit about yourself. So they would never talk at all. But as weeks went on and the more questions I gave them, and they saw that I was, just like them, I can connect, I can understand what you're going through. And they were able to kind of come out of that shell and things like that. Moving forward, they were seniors in high school. So as the beginning of their senior year started, they had maybe like a 1.2 grade point average. But at the end of the program, and I don't think that I had an impact on their GPA, but I mean,
I think it has something to do with it.
We can go with that. But they were able to pull their grades up to a 3.0.
Oh, that's awesome.
One was accepted into University of Michigan.
Okay.
The other gentleman, he wanted to go the trade school route, which is just as good.
Absolutely fine.
Just as good. And as of maybe a month ago, I was able to keep in contact with him, the one that's at University of Michigan. He's a sophomore now.
Okay.
And the other guy, he's a full-time electrician,
That's
doing his
awesome.
own thing.
Yes.
So that's awesome to always know kids who are, who you see who are, all is not lost.
Correct.
Forget about what it is that you did, and I love to see kids, who may see me out, on the street, and I may not remember you, but you remember me, and that says a lot.
Of course, you made an impact.
And it was one gentleman, not to get too long-winded, it was a gentleman who I saw in the barbershop. And when I walked in, he was like, "Hey, Mr. Rogers." But I really could not remember where I knew him from, but it was good that he knew who I was. And he was like, "I'm 17 now, I'm getting ready to graduate."
Oh, that's
And I'm
nice.
like, "That's awesome." And he's also looking to go the trade school route, and
Okay.
I'm like, "Man, just keep it up. Just
That's
stick
awesome.
with it. Don't let anything get in your way, and best of luck to you."
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. Tell our viewers how they can get in contact with you to maybe have you come speak at an event or just to get some counseling maybe for them personally with their child.
Right.
And also how they can get a hold of your book.
Right. So Walking Barefoot on the Cool Grass and When Delcy Got Mad, both are on Amazon.
Okay.
Get there, purchase both if you can. My phone number, I haven't done it before, but I'm going to do it now because that's a good way of communication. So my number is 305-684-5662. I'm also on Facebook under Delvin Rogers. I'm on Instagram under 247 Calm,
Yes.
and that's C.A.L.M. I'm also on LinkedIn under Delvin Rogers. So those are all of my handles. You can send me a message, DM, what have you. I'll love to come out and speak to schools, youth programs, youth organizations. I love to be, available. I think that our youth need this piece of information.
Yes, absolutely.
To navigate to their next step. And it's okay to be angry. It's a healthy emotion, but we want to know what is your next step, because we want to eliminate all of the mistakes.
Absolutely.
And,
have
a productive life without a lot of consequences.
Thank you so much, Delvin. Thank you for coming. Thank you for saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much to you guys who tuned in today for this episode of So Here's the Thing with Mr. Delvin Rogers, CEO and founder of Calm, Control Anger, Limit Madness.
Yes.
We'll see you next time on So Here's the Thing.